We got an update in Gina Carano's lawsuit against Disney and Lucasfilm because yesterday her legal team submitted a list of names that they want to depose for the court. And for people who don't know, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to call them as witnesses in the trial. It just means that they want to question them on the record under oath, and then judging by what they're questioning them on, then they can decide whether they want to use them as a witness or not. So this is coming from Business Insider. Actor Gina Carano wants Pedro Pascal and Bear Grylls to testify in her case against Disney over her Mandalorian role, and those are just two of the names on a long list of names. Pedro Pascal, Bear Grylls, and former Disney CEO Bob Chapek are among the big names who could be forced to testify in Gina Carano's ongoing lawsuit against the House of Mouse. Carano included their names amongst a list of potential witnesses for her case, which accuses Disney of violating California labor law by booting her from the flagship Disney Plus show The Mandalorian because of her personal views. And some people might think that she doesn't really have much of a case here, but under California law, personal views and political views are protected for employees when it comes to whether their employer can actually terminate them. Disney is trying to make the argument that they have a right to be able to boot people for whatever reason, and there might be some grounds to be had with that, but they've also kind of stepped over the line in certain instances too, and that's why this lawsuit is moving forward. In 2021, Disney said Carano wouldn't return to the show after she made social media posts comparing conservatives in America to Jews in the Holocaust. And just putting out there, she never actually made those statements, and this is kind of why Disney's getting in a little rough waters with their claim for why they're firing her, because for people who don't know, this is the actual post that she made on Instagram. I believe it was part of her Instagram story, but here's a screen grab from it. It says following: Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children, because history is edited. Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? So it doesn't compare conservatives to Jews or anything like that. She's basically just saying, don't hate people because of their political perspectives. If you have disagreements with them, that's fine. You can have disagreements, but don't hate people because they disagree with you on that one. And that's kind of why Disney got in a little bit of hot water when it comes to the reasons they're citing for why they fired her. They're trying to almost obfuscate this whole issue by saying that they can fire her for whatever reason they want. But at the same time, they're also saying it's because she has views that kind of contradict Disney. And I'll get more on that in a moment, why that is kind of an issue for them. Carano's lawsuit, funded by Elon Musk and filed in February, comes just short of calling Disney a hive of scum and villainy, accusing the company of unjustly firing her for her views, which are protected by the First Amendment, which is true. And not only that, but it's also protected under California labor laws. It also says Disney discriminated against her gender and allowed left-leaning actors to air their political views without punishment. And that's actually... well, I'm not saying that's true because it hasn't been litigated yet, but there is an argument to be made with that because I already showed you what she said. But her Mandalorian co-star, Pedro Pascal, this is something he actually posted, which he's directly comparing illegal migrants to Jews in the Holocaust, which I don't think that's really a good thing, but he still has a job there. And he also made this post too, where he's comparing conservatives now to Nazis and Confederates, which, if you know history, this is actually pretty ironic here, but still, he has a job, and she's making the argument that it's because he's a man that he's able to make these type of statements. And there's other people on Disney's payroll or who work for Star Wars that are making pretty insidious remarks, like way worse than what she's made, and they're still keeping their jobs. I don't know if it's necessarily because of sexism or if it's just simply because their views align with Disney. And if that's the case, and Disney already has some more trouble on their hands. Disney says Carano was never truly fired, only that her character was no longer included in the Star Wars universe, and that the company has a First Amendment right to disassociate itself from her political viewpoints. And this is, I think, an issue with Disney too, because if it was simply just the fact that we just don't have anything to do with her character, or we just weren't going to use her character anymore, and that's why she's no longer in the show, that's one thing. But then they go a step further and say, and also we didn't have anything to do with her character anyway, but also we just wanted to get rid of her because we don't believe in her viewpoints. And that's trying to almost have your cake and eat it too. And that's kind of where Disney gets into hot water when it comes to this whole firing of her, because some of the statements that they've made in regards to that are basically just borderline defamation, if not outright defamation, by saying she was making anti-Semitic claims and other things like that. Because, all right, that's a definitive claim of fact right there, where they're saying she did this and she never did that. And the only reason they would be saying such a thing is to potentially damage her career. And if that's the case, then there is grounds for suing them under defamation. She's not necessarily doing that, but she is going for the whole wrongful termination suit, which I think is a smarter move because that's easier to try to prove, I think, as a non-legal expert than to try to prove that they're deliberately trying to damage her career, even though that is ultimately what happened as a result of their claims. And also by saying that she's making statements that have a political viewpoint that go against Disney, that's not really a smart move on them, because if they're saying that she's expressing conservative views, which I don't think that post of hers was conservative, but if they're saying that she's expressing conservative views and that goes against their views of the company, well, then they're outright admitting that we're a liberal leaning company or we're a far left company. And that also flies in the face of their publicly stated positions where they try to claim that, like, no, we're not political. We're just neutral. We have values, but we're not a political company. But according to this defense that they're trying to put up, they are being overtly political. And she goes against that, which is why they're wanting to get rid of her. Last week, U.S. District Judge Sherilyn Peace Garnett, an appointee of President Joe Biden, denied Disney motion to dismiss the case, finding that Disney's First Amendment defense didn't make the company immune under California anti-discrimination laws. Carano's request for testimony was included in a joint filing on Friday. Lawyers for Disney and Carano proposed a trial date of September 25th, 2025. Before then, both sides are expected to take depositions. Carano said she wanted the creator of The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau, Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy, and the Lucasfilm publicist Lynn Hale to testify along with Chapek, Pascal, and Grylls. And this is something that Disney is obviously afraid of, because when you get these people on record under oath, you can ask them a lot of stuff and they're going to have to say things that they don't probably want to say out loud or have on public record. Like, you don't want to get Kathleen Kennedy and say, like, is your company left leaning? Are you trying to push a left wing agenda? And if that's the case, is that why you fired her? Like, I don't know what they're going to ask, but you could ask them stuff like that and she has to answer truthfully. Otherwise, you could get her for perjury. And it's pretty much like that for all these other people too. And Bear Grylls, that might seem kind of strange, but he was having a guest appearance on one of his shows where he takes celebrities out and stuff like that. And that got pulled after this. So they're probably going to talk with him about that or question him about why that got pulled and why it ultimately got put back on the air after a bunch of backlash from fans. Same Pascal, he's the star of the show. He's made some insidious claims. Chapek was the CEO of Disney at the time, and then obviously Favreau because he was president of Lucasfilm. So you just want to hear what these people are actually saying behind the scenes and what led up to Gina Carano being removed. And this doesn't mean this is going to be all the evidence that they gather. They're probably going to subpoena email records and a bunch of other memos going on behind the scenes at Disney that's ordinarily kind of private information, but they're going to need that in their lawsuit to see if they were actually plotting behind the scenes to get rid of her for the wrong reasons. And that's one reason why Disney wanted this case to get dismissed before this discovery phase moves forward. And it looks like that's not going to be the case. When it comes to all this, though, Disney still has the possibility that they could settle this lawsuit. Now, whether they actually propose a settlement to Gina Carano and whether she accepts it remains to be seen. She said in the past that she doesn't necessarily want to have to continue fighting this fight, but at the same time, she doesn't think companies like Disney should be able to just fire people for political reasons like this, or just fire people unjustly and then just get away with it. And if they settled with her, just gave her some money and then to be done with it, then yeah, they essentially get away with it. But at the same time, I understand why she doesn't want to continue on with this. She might just want to get a settlement and then move on and forget about it. And if that's the case, that's fine. But a settlement could always be they have to retract and apologize to her. So I don't know what can happen with this, but we'll just have to see what happens. If Disney is going to make any settlement claims or if they're going to try to wait and see what her attorneys are going to ask her. And if they start saying stuff that they really don't want to have revealed to the public, then maybe at that point they'll try to find some way to get rid of this whole lawsuit case without it going to court where all the stuff is going to be publicly revealed. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think Gina Carano should settle this, or do you think she should just take it all the way to the end, even if she loses, because this information coming out would be something that I think the public should know? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share the video out there with your friends, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.